Imagine winning $30 million overnight. You'd think your life would be a dream come true, right? But for one Florida man, that jackpot led to something far darker. A lottery win that should have changed everything, instead triggered jealousy, greed, and ultimately, a horrifying murder. This isn't just a story about a fortune. It's a tale of betrayal, tragedy, and how a dream come true quickly turned into a nightmare. What was once a dream come true quickly turned into a nightmare. The excitement and joy of his newfound wealth gave way to fear and uncertainty. As his life spiraled, it became clear that not everyone around him had his best interests at heart. And one fateful night, that darkness would come to a head in the most horrifying way. It all started like any other day, for the Florida man who would soon become a household name. A regular guy, living an ordinary life. Or so it seemed. He worked a typical job, making ends meet, dreaming of a better future, but never imagining what was about to happen. One fateful evening, he bought a ticket, just like millions of others. Little did he know, that piece of paper was about to change his life forever. The numbers were drawn, and against all odds, he matched every single one. $30 million. Overnight, he became a millionaire, the kind of dream come true that only happens in movies. But this wasn't a fairy tale. It was just the beginning of a much darker story. At first, the world celebrated his win. The headlines blared, and everyone wanted a piece of the story. But for him, the joy was short-lived. As the reality of the massive amount of money sank in, so did the pressure and the fear. Fear of losing everything, fear of who might come knocking, and the fear that sudden wealth could bring more harm than good. With millions now at his fingertips, he did what many do when they suddenly come into wealth. He started buying the things he'd always dreamed of. A new home, luxury cars, and flashy vacations. But as he basked in his newfound riches, something else began to change. Those closest to him, the people who had once shared in his modest life, started to treat him differently. His old friends were suddenly asking for favors, his family members becoming more distant, and strangers. Well, they weren't just admiring his success, they were eyeing it. At first, the $30 million seemed like a dream come true. For a man who had spent his life struggling, this windfall promised everything he'd ever wanted. And for a while, it seemed like it was everything he needed. He upgraded his life almost immediately. A sprawling mansion, cars that gleamed under the Florida sun, exotic vacations to places he'd only seen in movies. His social media feeds were filled with pictures of paradise, his smiling face framed by luxury. It looked perfect. But beneath the surface, things were starting to change, subtly at first. The people who had once been his closest friends began treating him differently. Requests for money came in, sometimes in the form of loans that were never repaid. Family members, who had once been a constant support, now seemed distant or too eager to take advantage. People didn't just see him anymore. They saw his wealth. The joy of his win began to fade, replaced by a gnawing sense of isolation. He found himself surrounded by people who weren't there for him, but for his money. And while his lifestyle had changed, his core identity was still the same. Except now, he had to navigate a world of envy, greed, and manipulation. Those closest to him were no longer the people he had known and trusted. They were transformed by the allure of his fortune. With new wealth came new fears. What if someone wanted more than just a handout? What if they wanted to take it all? His once quiet life was now filled with questions and suspicion. And as much as he tried to stay grounded, the world around him had already begun to shift, setting the stage for something far darker. It started like any other evening. But soon, the man would find himself face to face with danger in a way he could never have imagined. The people who had come to him seeking money, or worse, had now crossed a line that could never be undone. The details of the murder are chilling. On that night, someone close to him, a person he trusted, perhaps even considered a friend, turned on him. Whether driven by greed, jealousy, or a thirst for revenge, the motives are still unclear. But the result was undeniable. In a brutal attack, the man was killed in cold blood. The life he had worked so hard to change, the future he had built, was taken in an instant. There was no warning. No chance for him to defend himself. The millions he had won gone. And his life, snuffed out in the blink of an eye. The murder sent shockwaves through the community. How could this have happened to someone who, just months earlier, had been living the life everyone dreamed of? Who was behind it? Was it a random act of violence, or had the money made him a target? The investigation would soon reveal that the truth was even darker than anyone could have imagined. The murder sent ripples through the community, but the true fallout was felt far beyond Florida. The tragic end of a man who had once been an ordinary person, someone many could relate to, became a haunting reminder of the dark side of sudden wealth. As news outlets rushed to cover the shocking crime, headlines screamed the same words: lottery winner found dead in brutal murder. But the story quickly became more than just a tragic tale. The media frenzy didn't just focus on the victim. It turned into an exploration of the dangers of winning big. What did his fortune really cost him? And who would want to kill a man who had everything? For his family, the pain was immeasurable. What was supposed to be a life-changing blessing had become a curse. Those closest to him were left reeling from the tragedy, trying to make sense of it all. How could someone so full of promise and joy end up dead at the hands of someone he knew and trusted? As the investigation deepened, the true impact of his wealth came into focus. It wasn't just about money. It was about what people would do for it. Family members, who had once been part of his inner circle, were now under scrutiny. Were they involved? Had jealousy or greed taken over? Detectives worked tirelessly to piece together the clues, but the motives remained tangled. Was it a crime of passion? Or was it premeditated, a result of mounting tension over the man's sudden wealth? The closer they looked, the more complicated the case became. But one thing was certain: his death would leave an indelible mark on everyone who had ever been part of his life. As the investigation unfolded, the world was forced to ask itself, what does winning the lottery really mean? Does it bring happiness? Or does it simply reveal the darkness within us? And who, in the end, truly benefits from such a windfall?
In the aftermath of the murder, one thing became painfully clear. Sudden wealth isn't always the blessing it's made out to be. While winning the lottery is often seen as the ultimate dream, this tragic story is a stark reminder of the darker side of fortune. Money, it seems, changes everything. But in the case of this Florida man, it wasn't the change he had hoped for. Instead of happiness and security, his windfall brought nothing but turmoil and tragedy. The people closest to him, the very ones who should have been there to support him, became strangers, driven by their own desires and envy. So, what can we learn from this? It's easy to fantasize about what we would do with a life-changing amount of money. But as this story shows, wealth can turn relationships upside down, stir up greed, and even fuel violence. The lottery win didn't just change his bank account. It changed the way people saw him, and ultimately, the way they treated him. For anyone thinking that winning the lottery would solve all their problems, this story is a chilling wake-up call. Without a strong foundation of trust, support, and security, sudden wealth can feel like a curse rather than a blessing. The pressure to keep up appearances, to give to those who ask for help, can quickly become overwhelming. This case also reminds us that, no matter how much we gain, we can never be prepared for the emotional toll that comes with drastic change. Money might solve financial problems, but it doesn't solve deeper issues of loneliness, betrayal, or fear. And when a person is surrounded by those who want something from them, whether it's money, fame, or power, the result can be far more destructive than anyone could ever expect. Ultimately, the lesson here is not about winning or losing, but about the importance of being prepared, emotionally, mentally, and socially, before chasing the dream of sudden wealth. No amount of money can replace the relationships, trust, and peace of mind that come from a grounded, balanced life. This tragic story serves as a reminder that sometimes the greatest gift isn't the prize we win, but the life we build before, during, and after. In the end, the story of the Florida man who won $30 million is a tragic reminder of how wealth can change everything, sometimes for the worse. What should have been the beginning of a new life, full of possibilities, became the end of a life filled with promise. His story is not just about a lottery win or a horrific murder. It's a reflection on human nature, the price of sudden wealth, and the darkness that can lurk behind even the most dazzling of dreams. In the blink of an eye, a fortune can turn from a blessing to a curse, and relationships once built on trust can crumble under the weight of greed and envy. So, what can we take from this? The tragic end of one man's life serves as a powerful lesson for us all. While money may bring temporary happiness or security, it can never replace the deeper values that truly matter: honesty, loyalty, and connection. If there's one thing we should learn, it's this: money doesn't define who we are, but how we manage it and the relationships we build along the way can define our future. Thank you for watching. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, sometimes dreams can be dangerous,